What's a secret to a thriving relationship, both at work and at home? Okay, there's lots of different topics. You can talk about communication, problem solving, all kinds of different things. But what would be the one thing that really kind of separates the thriving relationships, both at work and home? What I have found doing this work for 25 years is one of the secrets is ownership. It's taking ownership. When people take ownership, both with their team and their clients, as well as with their partner, with their kids, that changes literally everything. So let me kind of explain to you, let me give you a couple examples just to kind of help really kind of explain this. And so let's talk about it really in the family context, because this comes up a lot in terms of marriages. And so for a lot of people, they get into a certain dance, right? They get into a certain dance where one person gets, listen, everybody's going to get frustrated and disappointed in marriage. Marriage is one of the toughest relationships. It's one of the most satisfying and most amazing, but it's also the most challenging and difficult. And so people are going to get frustrated and disappointed. And so what is a common dance for a lot of people is that we point the finger, right? We point the finger, well, she's not doing this, they're not doing this, and we focus on what our partner is not doing, okay? So, and then what happens is people get really critical. They get really critical, and the more one person points the finger and blames, the more the other person's going to kind of get defensive. And so it kind of goes in this really unhealthy dance. Okay, and so what you want to do is realize, okay, that totally does not work. It doesn't solve anything. It's exhausting. It's time consuming. Nobody's happy, and it freezes the problem. So what you want to do is you shift it. You change the dance. And the way you change the dance is that you don't do this, you do this. You don't focus on what the other person's doing. You focus on what you could be doing differently. And this is always interesting because when I explain this to clients, they're like, yeah, but my partner is doing A, B, C, D, E, F, G wrong. And so we focus on all these things that our partner is doing wrong, which it probably is actually true. But the challenge is you can't control your partner. So the more you focus on it, you're just literally you're going to get so frustrated and so agitated and get so resentful, and it just literally does nothing. And so what you do is you put the focus over here. So even if you think that your partner is like 95% in the wrong and you're 5%, you're 5% responsible for whatever the issue is, focus on your 5. Focus on your 5. Don't do this, do this. I'm going to focus on my 5. What could I do different that would create a different outcome? This was a bit of a game changer for me. When I got married 21 years ago, this was a game changer for me when I realized it was out of the wonderful wise counsel of my mother. It was after I was doing my doctoral studies in marriage therapy, family systems. But I was, you can learn this stuff academically, intellectually, even apply professionally, but playing it personally is like a whole other thing. And so this was really good for me. I needed to learn how to apply this. And I realized that while, I might think I'm in the right and I think my husband's in the wrong, by focusing and doing this, it doesn't do anything. So I needed to learn to do this, take ownership for what my part is. What could I have said differently? What words could I have used differently? What tone, what timing? What can I do differently that is going to help create a better outcome? And focus on that, and have a very clear game plan with that. Take ownership for that, and then you actually start executing it. And it completely changes the dance, because once you take ownership, what happens is all of a sudden people's shoulders come down. They're more open to talk. They're more open to problem solving. And so all of a sudden the dance gets shifted. Okay, so that's how you can apply it in the marriage context. In a work context, it's kind of the same thing. We're working with a client this week, and they were talking about, just how their clients, they don't pay on time. They're invoicing. There's all this kind of like backlog of like accounts that have not been paid. And the focus was on their client, what the client's doing wrong, what the client, the client hasn't done A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You can't control your clients. You can control you. And so I said to our business client, I'm like, let's focus on you and what you can do differently to have a better outcome. So let's talk about your policies. Let's talk about how you do your accounting. Let's talk about in terms of your invoicing, so that you can let's talk about how you set boundaries, because clients will follow your lead. If you don't have any boundaries and policies in place, people will just take advantage. And so by focusing on the client's actions, it doesn't mean that they were wrong. It's like, because they can control that. Let's focus on the areas where we have control. We can control ourselves, so let's actually put our focus. And so by putting your focus there and taking ownership and responsibility for that, all of a sudden it shifts. All of a sudden a person starts feeling empowered. They start feeling more energized. They start feeling more hopeful. And it also creates a better outcome. So think about your relationships at work and at home and how specifically you can really start practicing this leadership skill around taking ownership and responsibility.